when you see what this man has endured, what he ultimately ended up accomplished, and then you hear he's 86 years of age, um, you don't look at him as being gone. He might be gone from us, but clearly never forgotten, and obviously in a better place because of what a wonderful human being he was. Stephen A. Smith is not sitting here today if it weren't for people like himself, Jackie Robinson, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, and some of the great, iconic African Americans who not only excelled in the world of sports, but they extended their reach far beyond the field or the court of play for the betterment of us as a people. Hank Aaron hit 755 career home runs. And, you know, Tim Kirkjian, the great Tim Kirkjian, highlighted all the superlatives. And it was wonderful seeing Ralph Wiley, God rest his wonderful soul, a person that I truly idolized in this business. And I had the pleasure of knowing a little bit before he passed away several years ago. And to hear the deference and the reverence with which they speak about Hank Aaron just brings chills to you, because you hear about and you witness to some degree, whether it's through footage, letters he saved, etc., what he had to endure. And it's a reminder, particularly for people in today's generation. When they picked Jackie Robinson, it wasn't just because of his exploits, it's because of what he would have to endure and whether he had the temperament to fend all of those things off and still perform while making sure he didn't engage in retribution or reciprocal behavior towards the heinous acts that were exacted against him. With Hank Aaron, he talked about what he talked about, what he had to endure, and you saw the pictures of
3,000 hate letters a day?
A day, and death threats and what have you. And you see that he was a civil rights activist. You recognize that he was pushing for management. We just had a conversation at the beginning of the show, y'all, where we talked about African Americans being in head coaching positions. How do we applaud the Washington football team? Because for the first time, it's 2021, and a black man is the president of a football team in the National Football League, and another black man's about to be the general manager. These are the kind of things that Hank Aaron was speaking about, envisioning, and hoping for in the 70s. We just had protests a few months ago about what things have not been happening, what things have not been transpiring, and how Max so eloquently speaks to the systemic racism that continues to exist and ravage this nation as a whole. And so for me, I'm sad that he's gone. I'm incredibly happy that he's with God now in a better place. And I just, I'm so thankful to him, because if it were not for people like him, there wouldn't be people like me. There wouldn't be people like LeBron. There wouldn't be people like Jordan. There wouldn't have been a lot of other people if it were not for the sacrifices he made and the things he was willing to endure while still performing at an elite level. What a true icon, what a true role model. He will be missed, but he will never be forgotten.
And talk about a life well lived, Max.
We take it for granted,
Yeah.
I hope, that if a black man or a black person were to accomplish something big, societally speaking, they had to go through a lot of hate from the white powers that be. You even just brought up how long it took to have a black president in a front office. The American population did better electing a black man president not long ago, twice, than these owners do in the NFL in giving black men, right? In other words, the more entrenched in power the white person, or so it seems, the more black people are facing, right? It gets worse, not better.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what Hank Aaron had to go through in the 50s and 60s, mainly, is when he did this. And the kind of hate and backlash that they received, that a black person trying to achieve a great thing received, was, you would think, in proportion to the size of the accomplishment. Just so people understand out there, because the NFL and the NBA are such big deals now, Major League Baseball in the 1950s and 60s was the NFL and the NBA combined times something.
Yeah.
Its economy was so much bigger. It was the national pastime. Nothing competed with baseball during Hank Aaron's career. And the home run record was the number one record. More than the hits record, but the lifetime home, that Babe Ruth's record was the number one. He broke, by far, the number one record in the history of American sports till that time, a record I believe he still holds. Because his forehead didn't suddenly triple in size, and then his home run to at-bat ratio double. He was the same dude for a quarter century. I'll tell you something else about Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron was not just the greatest home run hitter of lifetime. Hank Aaron was, he led the league in hitting more than once, in batting average, slugging percentage more than once. He was a great right fielder, had more than one Gold Glove. So he was an excellent base stealer, stole 30 bases in a season, better than a 3-to-1 ratio with over 240 stolen bases in his career. He was an all-around great player. Wiley's stat about this number 2 guy in total bases is Stan Musial, one of the all-time greats, really long career. He had more than 12 miles, 90 feet to each base, more total bases than the number 2 guy, Stan Musial. He was an incredibly great all-around baseball player. And as a black man, overcame the hate associated with claiming the number one prize in the history of American team sports. Throughout the 50s and on his way to do it in the early 70s, through the 50s and the 60s. That's an icon.